College life is a whole new challenge for me, especially every night spent in the dormitory, filled with unknowns and mysteries. I live in a single-person dorm room in college, in a somewhat secluded location near the end of the corridor, giving a sense of quietness and privacy. When I first moved in, I was full of expectations, hoping to spend a fulfilling and enjoyable college life here. However, not long after, I began experiencing unsettling things. Every night, as I sat quietly in my room preparing to sleep, suddenly I would hear a gentle knocking sound, as if someone was tapping on my door from outside. At first, I didn't pay much attention to this sound, thinking it might be other dorm mates walking around and accidentally bumping into my door. However, as this knocking continued to happen and became more frequent late at night, I began to feel uneasy and troubled. Every time I heard the knocking, I'd subconsciously go to open the door, hoping to find traces of the visitor. However, each time I opened the door, I found no one outside, and the surrounding corridor was silent. This mysterious knocking made me feel confused and uneasy, and I began to wonder if there was some eerie phenomenon in this dormitory building. After experiencing several nights of knocking, I decided to report the issue to the dormitory administrator. The administrator seemed surprised after hearing my description, stating that they had never heard such complaints before, but they promised to investigate and resolve the issue as soon as possible. However, even with the administrator's intervention, the knocking didn't stop. Every nightfall, I could hear the continuous tapping sound, as if an invisible hand was constantly knocking on my door, trying to get my attention. I felt increasingly puzzled and anxious, not knowing what the mysterious knocking meant or who was behind it all. I began to pay attention to everything around me, hoping to find clues and uncover the truth behind this mystery. However, it wasn't until one night that I finally discovered the truth behind the knocking. When I heard the knocking again, I opened the door, ready to witness the identity of the knocker with my own eyes. As I opened the door, I saw a tall and eerie shadow disappearing at the corner of the corridor. A chill ran down my spine, and I felt a wave of unease and fear. I quickly ran towards the end of the corridor, wanting to chase after the mysterious shadow. But when I arrived, there was no one there, and everything returned to calmness. This scene shocked and frightened me, and I began to doubt whether I had seen it correctly, or if I had been misled by nighttime illusions. However, I knew deep down that I hadn't been dreaming. The presence of that shadow was so real and vivid, I couldn't ignore it. Since then, I haven't heard that mysterious knocking again, nor have I seen that tall, dark figure. However, that experience has always stayed in my memory, becoming the most unforgettable scene in my college life, fueling my curiosity and desire to explore the mysteries of the night. University life was a fresh start for me, but my dormitory experience turned out to be a complete nightmare. I had just arrived at university, still buzzing with novelty and excitement, when I began to interact with my roommate. His name was Alan, a slightly frail-looking boy with eyes that always seemed to carry an inexplicable sense of melancholy and mystery. At first, he was always silent, as if he were the only one in the world. I tried to engage him in conversation, but his responses were always brief and vague, leaving me unable to decipher his true thoughts. His behavior was also peculiar. He often sat silently on his bed, seemingly lost in thought. I attempted to break the ice with him, hoping to understand his inner world, but each attempt ended in failure. Alan seemed to have no interest in crowds or social activities, always preferring to be alone, which left me feeling unsettled. One night, as I prepared to sleep, I heard strange noises, almost like faint murmurs. I assumed it was my roommate dreaming and didn't pay much attention, closing my eyes. However, what happened next startled me. That night, I woke up for no apparent reason to find Alan not in his bed but sitting on the floor, muttering softly to a pile of books. I wanted to wake him, but something felt off, so I silently lay back down, hoping he'd return to bed soon. From that night on, I noticed Alan's behavior becoming increasingly bizarre. He would roam the room mysteriously, sometimes even tampering with my belongings when I wasn't looking, as if studying them. My attempts to question him were always evaded, and he'd only offer a faint smile in response. What alarmed me even more was one evening when I caught him fiddling with an old pocket watch in our room, muttering incomprehensible phrases to himself. I tried to approach him to understand what he was doing, but he abruptly stopped and turned to me with an inexplicable gleam in his eyes. A chill ran down my spine, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I began to suspect that Alan was hiding something, his peculiar actions fueling my unease and fear. Despite my efforts to communicate and understand him, Alan remained silent, like a sealed box, concealing his secrets from me. During this time, I grew increasingly anxious, unsure of how to handle my roommate's strange behavior. I attempted to coexist peacefully, but his mystery and unpredictability left me restless. Eventually, I decided to seek help and consulted with a counselor at the university. After thorough investigation and understanding, I finally unraveled the mystery behind Alan, discovering the undisclosed experiences he had been through and the secrets buried deep within him. Following this revelation, the relationship between Alan and me gradually improved. We began to communicate more openly, forging a deeper friendship. Though Alan's past had initially perplexed and frightened me, I came to understand and cherish him more, realizing that everyone has their own stories and unique experiences. Since then, I have learned to be more accepting and understanding of others, refraining from hasty judgments and respecting each person's choices and way of life. This experience has made me more mature and resilient, teaching me how to confront life's challenges and difficulties, and transforming me into a more mature and responsible individual.